all well. I hope that you're thriving. Hello, America's beautiful children. We love you. And so, speaking of setting the tone for your day, I was able to get up and go for my walk, juice, a couple things, beets, carrots, apples, and just start out with that and just being grateful for that. Even though some things were off with my schedule, I was just glad that I had that foundation that, I got to go for a walk today. And I got to juice, which I do every few days. And so I am just so glad. And so I hope that you're doing well. I really do. And I want you to always remember to celebrate those little things that may seem small, but really help you to just thrive throughout your day. Today, we have an amazing guest. Her name is Isis Spann. Hello, Isis.
Good afternoon
Hello.
from the Hi, how you doing?
Hey, how are you, sis?
I am well. I am well. Can't complain. Can't complain.
I find that it's really not gonna solve anything to complain. And so I had just that mindset that I'm gonna look for a solution or a resolution, and whatever's in my control, I'm gonna go ahead and try to work through that. And so tell everyone that's watching that's all we can do. Tell everyone who's watching who you are and what you do.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Isis Spann. I am an educator. I am the engagement educator. I am the owner of Fundamentals of Learning, where we really focus on narrowing engagement and equity gaps. And in my local community, I am the program director for Beyond Our Walls Incorporated, where we serve low-income and underserved communities and families.
And so, where are you located? I like to always,
Yes, in Charleston, South Carolina is where I am.
And that's amazing. And I love your background, the math problems. I've been able to watch your teaching methods and your incorporation of fun. And so I think the fundamentals is a beautiful name because it totally describes how to make learning fun. And so we want to be able to give parents some fundamental tips that they can use to help their children thrive. And what would you say?
Right. So first things first, I always tell parents that we can't pour from an empty cup, right? So you need to make sure that you're in a position to help. You're in a position to actually do what's necessary for your child. And I love what you said about juicing, exercising, because all of those things are important. We have to make sure that our health as the parents are intact before we can pour what's necessary into our children. So first things first, making sure that you're taking care of yourself. I know one of the things that I do every morning is I'm up before my kids, at least an hour and a half to 2 hours, just to meditate, pray, read scripture, and whatever that may look like for you. I'm just saying for me, that's what I do so that I know when they wake up, I'm in the right frame of mind to help them. And then academically, if you're not an educator, if you don't know a lot about, the standards and where your child should be, you really want to make sure that you're communicating with that teacher and getting things from that teacher or a trusted source that you have so that you can really help your children to learn and to thrive, especially in the season that we're in right now.
I agree that I wake up too earlier than my children just to get my mind and body, my spirit ready for the day. I think that there's been times where I've contacted you like, ain't it 4:00 out there? And I'm like, I'm not really paying attention to the time. I don't go by a traditional calendar clock. But you know, it just really does help, right? Like being able to go for that 30 to 45 minutes, even an hour, whatever your body can handle, walk. My focus is meditation, prayer, listening to gospel music. I'm walking, listening to the Bible, you know, or whatever. And just setting the tone. Like, I'm so grateful that I'm able to start out that way instead of abruptly waking up into panic, right? Abruptly waking up into chaos and confusion, right? You know, and just being able to have the ability to be firm in the position that I'm already prepared for what we're going to do today. And even if we detour from that, it's okay. But I have a goal set in mind of what I want to reach. And so it's flexibility within that, but it really does help. So I appreciate you saying.
Yeah, it does. Because a lot of times we are, as parents, we're problem solvers. So we want to dive right in. We want to attack things head on. But a lot of times we don't think about what is that going to look like? What's the step-by-step process going to look like? And what is it going to take in order for me to solve this problem? And now I'm a mom of 4, and I can handle my 3rd graders. Like I have content down pat when it comes to elementary. It's the 3-year-old and the 1-year-old where I'm just like, okay, like what's happening here? Like schools, y'all can stay closed forever, but preschool and daycare, y'all need y'all to figure this thing out. So it's just like the content, like, yeah, I'm not worried about the content at all. I'm just like the 3-year-old and her mood swings. The 1-year-old, he just wants to be attached to my hip. So it's just like that balance is where I'm just, you know, trying to figure everything out still. And I think we're on week 8. Yeah.
And, you know, my children, I appreciate the value of what you're saying. My children range from 26 down to 8, right? 4 children, 2 generations, right? And I just had my 3rd grandchild, and I'm laughing because yesterday I went and got my little grand princess who is 3, and we're working on potty training. And I'm like, I am a grandma. You know?
Not built with it.
And I have to go, you know, and so it just reminded me of the value of appreciating parents that have to juggle multiple age ranges. And, you know, my kids are spaced 5 years apart. So the 14 and 23-year-old, that's like a 9-year span. And so having those multiple age ranges in the house, you really, it's a juggling act. And I appreciate you parents and caregivers that are doing it. I really do. I have my granddaughter, and I got more appreciation today. And so talk about how you could, you know, give some wisdom to help parents manage through that day.
Right. So one thing and I actually went live. So on Wednesdays, or last Wednesday was my first time going live with my family, because I was giving tips and I was giving advice, but they weren't in the room. So I was like, okay, let me actually go live with my family so that you can hear the crying in the background. You can hear my 3-year-old doing what she wanted to do. You can see her on camera mixing and bouncing around while I'm trying to teach the 3rd graders, because I felt like that gave parents a sense of encouragement, but it also gave educators that lens to understand that there's a totally different family dynamic that's happening right now. And as educators, you have to understand that you're sending packets and you're sending assignments and you're sending all these different things, but you have to realize that some of your families are set up to have 2-parent family households where they can help the child without any interruptions. But in my situation, like my husband just went back to work this week, so I can't hand off the 1-year-old for nap time anymore. I can't, you know, tell him to help the 3-year-old with things while I help the 3rd graders. So it's really different, and the learning is really being challenged for my 3rd graders because now they have a baby crying. while they're trying to learn about fractions or perimeter and different things like that. So my advice to parents would be to make sure that you have something that you can give your toddlers, if you have toddlers, while you're working with your older children. Like today, for example, I was working with my third graders on using plates and forks and spoons to do math. And while we were doing that, my third grader was painting, and luckily my 1-year-old was asleep. So it's really making sure, like I said, when you wake up early in the morning, go ahead and plan out what your day will look like. It may not flow that way, it may not happen that way, but at least you have a plan and you know what you expect or what you would like for that day to look like.
That is so true, because we understand that with small children, you have to be very accommodating and very flexible. And so just having a goal in mind, that's the plan, right? Like, this is my goal for today. And I think that there's going to be some parents out here watching that are going to appreciate what I'm about to say next. Sometimes the adult children are a little bit more difficult to parent than the 2-year-olds, okay? Yeah. And so, yes. But even if I have, like, my 26-year-old, I love her, 22, almost 23, I love her, 14, and my one son, I still find myself parenting at different levels, and just not just saying, oh, they're 18, I need a hands-off approach, right?
Yeah.
Helping them to be able to manage through adulthood is something that is challenging too. And for us that do have adult children and smaller children, we recognize that the adult children don't always want to listen. They have to learn from natural consequences, just like smaller children. But then the wisdom comes and they come back and say, oh, that's what you were trying to teach me. And so that's a lovely moment in the time. Yeah. So it's all worth it. What, kind of structured day would you advise parents to have just to set that goal in place, just to set that plan?
Listen, so it's funny because when we first got out of school, I was just like, at 8 o'clock, do this, at 10 o'clock, do that, at 12, do this. And now, not even now, but like maybe a day or two after I put that schedule in place, I was like, it's not going to work that way. So now, honestly, I have a 2-hour window of learning. And in those 2 hours, you can do what your teacher has assigned, or you can read a book that I give you. But I'm no longer expecting my home to be a school. And I think at the beginning of this quarantine and COVID experience, I was like, okay, from this time to that time, we're going to do this assignment or this work. And it just didn't work that way for my household. So I tell parents to do what works for you. Like, I literally was talking to a friend earlier, and she works from 8 to 5 p.m. And she does have, children in pre-K, kindergarten, and 5th grade. And she just has this feeling of, oh, I don't want to fail my children because I'm not at home to do the assignments. And then the teacher is telling me I have to get this done by Friday and this and this and this. And I'm just like, look, at the end of the day, we all have to have a certain level of grace for one another in this period.
Amen.
And I tell people all the time, I'm an educator, and my daughters have missed, 2 or 3 assignments because in our day-to-day, I can't really decide when my 1-year-old won't take his nap, and then that may go into our learning time. I can't decide when my 3-year-old may spill her cereal and milk all over the floor for the 9th time, and I have to clean it up, and I have to stop doing what I'm doing with my children that are in school. These are the things that we can't control. These are the things that we don't really have a lot of say-so over. And I would tell parents, you want to focus on the necessities. What does my child absolutely positively need to get out of this lesson, out of this assignment? And even if that's them doing 2 or 3 problems and then an hour later going back to do 2 or 3 more. Like you have to go with the flow and the feeling of what your child is giving. And if they're getting antsy, if they're getting annoyed, if they're stressing out, like just stop. And I've been saying that from the very beginning.
Yes.
Stop, breathe, reassess. A lot of the parents, you're not a trained educator. You don't know what a lot of the terminology is. You don't know a lot of the resources that you need to tap into in order to help your child, and that's okay. Just be an expert in the parenting piece, allow educators and others to assist you, but don't feel like you have to have a 7-8 hour schedule happening in your home, because a lot of parents are going back to work. A lot of parents just don't know how to do geometry and algebra and physics. Like these are just things that they don't know how to do, and it's not going to happen just because we're in a quarantine. It's not going to happen that way.
And I have to say that there are even trained educators that are having a difficult time right now, right?
Yeah.
And what I see and what I see from my purview, just being a homeschool mom, is that difficulty comes when you're trying to take a traditional model and recreate it in the house, right? You cannot replicate the traditional type of school environment in your home, nor should you.
No.
And so I think that the grace is right there. Just understanding that this is the home. Yes, I can educate my child, but what does that education look like from a parental purview? And that can look like, I want a well-rounded child, right? And so some of those experiences in learning are not going to just be the academia. It's going to be some life skills, some creativity like arts, music, whatever that may be. It's not going to just be science, math, language arts. And I have to just pick up on what you said. Like, your daughter may have missed an assignment or two, but that doesn't mean that she's at an academic deficit, right? Because she missed an assignment or two. And I'm not saying like let the kids just miss whatever. No, what I'm saying is that even though she may have missed 1 or 2 assignments, she learned some other valuable skills that day that she's going to have to carry on with her into adulthood, right? Like, how do you juggle a family, right? How do you manage at home? Because we are at home. And so I want parents just and caregivers just to have that grace and that mercy, even on yourselves, so that your children could understand that you're coming from a level of understanding, knowledge, and wanting them to be well-rounded, during this time. I don't go by a traditional calendar, like I said, and so those traditional timelines are not a pressure point for my kids, right? Like, you got to do XYZ by this age or this time frame or this time period. I don't want to apply those pressures on them like that. But I do focus on progress, mastery, right? Are you progressing in developmentally, socially, academically? And does that look like you're thriving? Is that well-rounded? In the areas that you're frustrated and irritated, how can I help you master that? My son, just to bring up an example, was upset because he was like, my hand hurts, and he didn't have his pencil position right. And so we were working on pencil positioning and his hand movement, and how to get that right. And after levels of frustration, I realized that, he needs to do core exercises because he's just not strengthened in other areas of his body. Is kind of leaning, didn't want to stand up straight, so we took it back, like, stop the writing. We're going to stop right here and let's focus on some core management core exercises so
Right.
that you can then master that writing, right? And so,
Mhm.
it's just knowing your child and trying to help them the best way that you can. How do you see, schools reopening? What do you think that's going to look like?
Man, it's going to be, if I could be 1,000% honest, I don't
Yes.
think it's going to look much different. And I say that because right now we're just seeing head on what was already taking place. And this is one of the reasons why I started Fundamentals of Learning, because I realized that the gap between what was happening in my classroom and what parents were doing or what parents knew to do at home was huge. And now what we have are groups of parents, groups of educators that are now realizing, either from their students or from their children at home, that we have thousands of students that are in grade levels that they are not academically ready for. And going
Right.
back into the classroom, those students that were behind before quarantine, sadly, may still be in that same position or worse. The students that were on grade level, honestly, I think that they will be okay because they have that foundation. They know strategies to use. They know how to maneuver through different assignments. And then the students that were kind of in the middle, they are either growing right now or they're sliding right now. So going back into the building, the biggest thing that's going to help us is engagement. And that's why I preach the story of engagement so heavily, because it's going to take teachers and parents engaging and partnering with each other. That way, if schools close, I can say, hey, your child knows this number of sight words, they know how to count this far, they know this number of shapes, and we can have a conversation about that that's not foreign and that's not new, because it is a part of our natural routine. And I think going back into schools, we have to take ownership of what we didn't do before COVID-19, because students weren't 1 and 2 grade levels behind in March. They were 1 and 2 grade levels behind for years, but now we see
Exactly.
it in March because they're home with their parents, or the teacher can no longer differentiate instruction. She can't have a guided reading group or a guided math group because she has to send packets home of information that's the same for every kid. So going back into schools in August or September, whenever it may happen, nothing is going to look totally different. I think the biggest thing that we have to do is to engage with one another, so that if something like this is to happen again, there's no question about what a parent's email is, what a parent's phone number is. Like if parents can't, if teachers can't reach a parent right now because of lack of relationship, that's a problem. If
Yes.
students aren't learning right now or logging in right now because of lack of relationship and connection, that's a problem. So going
Mhm.
back into the building, we have to make sure that we connect with each other, that we engage with each other, so that if something like this happens again, no one can tell you anything about your child that you don't already know. And as an educator, you should have every parent's phone number, every parent's email, the grandparent, the aunt, the cousin, the
Right.
uncle. There should be somebody that you can get in contact with to help your
Yes.
students. And if you can't, that is a huge problem. And now COVID-19 has just shown us how weak our relationships are with each other, because there are educators that can't reach parents and can't reach kids. And that's a disservice to the child.
And that's why I say, like, that relational capacity is so huge. And I
Right.
don't even know, I love how you said we're just seeing the deficit that already existed in March, right? But it has existed for years, right? And so how are we gonna be able to come out of this without the blame game, but moving into action. What is that gonna look like? And I so agree that the school is a building. It's the people that come enter into that space that make the total difference, you know, and can sit there and assess, sorry, got my words twisted, assess needs according to relationships even, right? Not just understanding the child, but understanding their family structure. Like, who are those key people that I can contact? Who are those people, whether it's Nana around the corner or auntie over here or my tío over here, or whoever that may be, who is able to connect with the child best to help them thrive, right? And that looks different in every single you know, family. That structure may look different, you know, and who is able to like reach out and connect. But you are so right that if the teachers have come into this and they didn't have those established relationships and are not able to find how to reach the child, then there is something that needs to be, you know, looked at. I do have parents even today, still no contact, just nothing. And so for that group of parents, what would you suggest that they do as far as just working with their child every day? Like, is there some supplements, some things, you know, that they could just have a baseline to start from?
Right. And not to do a shameless plug, but if they are elementary families, definitely follow me. Miss Spann's Fundamentals of Learning. I have a YouTube channel. I have a Facebook. You can go to my website and submit your email address, and I will reach out to you and I will help you. But at the end of the day, what we can't do is sit at home and say, oh, the teacher isn't reaching out, so my child isn't going to do anything. Because there are thousands of educators out here that are willing to help. So even if it's not your child's classroom teacher, there are other educators out here. There are other teachers out here that will help you. There are teachers that go live, not only me, but there are art teachers, music teachers that go live on Facebook, that go live on Instagram. So reach out and build your own village. Don't feel like you have to have Miss Jones or Mr. Jones information in order for your child to learn. Don't feel like you have to reach out to the teachers even in your building, because a third grader in New York City and a third grader in South Carolina, hopefully they're learning about the same content or in the same content areas. So you can reach out to educators and teachers anywhere. Don't feel like just because your child's teacher isn't reaching out that your child can't get any help, because that's just not true. So make sure that you have a community of people that you can reach out to, that you can trust. And don't quit. Don't give up on your child. Don't give up on yourself, because YouTube University is thriving right now. There are so many resources, and I put my toddler on YouTube. I put my third graders on YouTube. So type in whatever they're working on. Hey, my child needs help with XYZ. Type it in a Google search. Type it into YouTube. Reach out to educators like me that are here as a resource for you guys to not only help you through the quarantine and COVID-19, but beyond that, because our children are the future, right? It sounds cliche, but what we're doing right now, what we're molding and we're building right now, they're going to be taking care of us, 20, 30 years from now. So we have to make sure that we're pouring and we're sowing good seeds, so that when the fruit actually does come forth, then we have something that we can depend on. This is so seed sowing season right now. And we may not see fruit, but hey, we just have to sow those seeds. So any parents that teachers aren't reaching out, teachers aren't, engaging with you, like I said, connect to educators and teachers like myself. Ask other parents, ask other educators, but get that help and get that support for your kid, because there are people out here that will help you.
And so, that's a good word right there. And I'm going to leave it. Listen, sister, I'm like, preach. I'm just going to leave it right there. And so, parents, we've given you the access and opportunity to be able to help your child thrive. She mentioned YouTube University. I love that, right? So true though, right? And if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to me, Christina at mpunion.org. Give them your email address one more time.
Yeah, so they can actually go to my website. They can go to isaspann.com. And I also have a free growth mindset journal for educators that they can download. And I also have daily affirmation cards that parents can shop on my website for. And they can email me info@isaspann.com. But I'm also on all social media platforms, which are located on my website.
My sister from Carolina, I am so grateful that you were able to dedicate this time. I appreciate you. And, all of you who are watching, be encouraged because we have all of this access to information. And now you just, you get this wisdom too. And that's an inspiring thought that we're planting seeds into our children so that they thrive in their future and so that the next generations will do better than the last. Mm-hmm. And so I will see you. Thank you for watching Managing Day to Day with me, Christina Laster, and National Parents Union. We hope that you're all well. We hope you're all thriving. Goodbye, America's beautiful children. We love you and we appreciate you, parents and caretakers. We want to hear from you if you want to drop comments or feedback or whatever that may be, questions. We're always accessible here. And so we'll see you again on our Facebook Live page tomorrow, same time, same place. And be sure to tune in to other shows that we also offer throughout the day. Bye-bye. See you later. Thanks, Isis.